Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's workshop, Interviewing Skills. My name is Shantae Rivers. I am the Senior Relationship Manager and Career Consultant for the Towson University Continuing Professionals Department. I'm thrilled to partner with TU Career Center today. Shortly, I will introduce Leah Fondersmith, but before I do, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we offer at Towson University Continuing and Professional Studies. Many of you on this call today may be familiar with our offerings, so I won't take up too much of your time. We offer live instructor-led courses, as well as self-paced options that are flexible with the possibility to fit into your busy schedules. Every course we offer is designed to help you meet your career goals. Our team provides 360 support. And what that means is everything from helping you select the right course, to adding you to the learning management system, ensuring that you receive the proper material for your course, and checking on you while you are actually taking the course to make sure you feel fully supported. Many of the students are eligible for a discount. Right now, most of our online self-paced courses are eligible for a significant discount. Some of the courses include Project Management Professional, Lean Six Sigma, Microsoft Office Specialist, Accountant and Bookkeeping, Certified Clinical Medical Assistant, Electronic Health Record Specialist, Pharmacy Technician, and several online CompTIA courses. Feel free to reach out to me at crivers@towson.edu. I'm happy to field questions and discuss your career goals. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Leah from the Towson University Career Center. During the presentation, feel free to use the chat functionality to submit questions. We'll get to a few at the end of the presentation. With no further ado, welcome Leah. Hi, Leah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to share with you all some tips on interviewing. This is a really exciting topic. I really love talking about interviewing, and it's such a crucial skill to really have during the job application process. So what I'm going to be covering today, we have about 30 minutes or so. I'm going to be talking about interviewing in general. There's a lot of different types of interviews out there. So I'll be covering all the different types, the logistics, how to prepare. And then what I really want to focus the main content on today's presentation is going to be like what you say. How do you answer those questions that you get asked in an interview? So we'll cover some frequently asked questions and the best way to approach those questions. So again, my name is Leah Fondersmith. I'm with the Towson University Career Center, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's start with the types of interviews. A lot of different options here. So we'll start with screening and phone. Screening and phone, those are usually your quick 15-minute first round interviews. Oftentimes with organizations, they'll have multiple rounds during the interview process, and they might start with a screening. Could be a quick 15-minute phone call with an HR representative, and they're just making sure that you're hitting the different check marks that they're looking for. They might, make sure that you are able to start when they're looking to start, really just get a vibe for who you are and your oral communication skills and your personality, as this will be their first time actually speaking to you. Again, salary expectations might come up. So that's a really quick 15-minute interview. One-on-one may be more in depth, and that's usually with the hiring manager. That could be in person or virtual. And that dives a little deeper into your skills and your strengths and experiences as they lend to the position that you're applying to. A panel interview would be when you are actually meeting with a couple different representatives at the organization. So it's you alone with maybe 3 to 4 folks, and that could be people within the department that you might be working in, an HR professional, cross-departmentally, maybe some folks that you will engage with in that role. So you'll be getting asked questions from everybody. And when you have that type of experience, it's important that you are engaging, smiling, and making eye contact with all individuals on the panel. The group interview. So group would be maybe a little opposite than the panel. That is where you and other potential candidates interviewing for a position may be in a room together. So I experienced a group interview one time. It was me and I think there were like 15 other folks in the room who were all competing and interviewing for the same job. We each had to stand up, give a 30-second commercial or quick introduction about who we are and why we were excited about that position. So that is a group interview. Task or technical is really popular with positions, maybe in graphic design or the art field or information technology, computer science, any field that would require you know particular technical skill set. There are writing exams, writing assessments, and so forth. They might send you an assignment to do by email, and then they'll evaluate just to really make sure you have the skills that you say you do in your resume. It's popular, with video, all those different things. So that's a task or technical interview. Situational or behavioral, that could be where you might be in a group setting. So it might be you and a couple other folks in a room, and they put you in a situation that is meant to be uncomfortable and to challenge you. And what they're doing is observing how you interact with your teammates. Maybe you have a challenge or a task at hand that they're going to ask you to do, and it's something that is meant to be stress inducing. And they're going to see what type of role do you take? Are you a leader, a team player? How do you use your critical thinking skills? So that's a situational or behavioral type of interview. And then meal is very often an interview type. You might find you're going for an interview and you have a day-long type interview. I know when I was interviewing for a job, I had a one-on-one interview with somebody, and then I met with a panel, and then we broke for a meal. And during the meal, you are eating usually with the folks that you might be potentially working with. Even though it might feel like it is a break and a time to relax, they are still interviewing you and getting a better idea of who you are as a person in a more comfortable, relaxed setting. It's meant to see how you react in that different scenario. So it's important when you have a meal interview that you are on high alert, that you answer questions professionally, don't put the guard down too much, and that you choose a meal that you can eat with a fork and a knife opposed to a hand. So avoid things like sandwiches, stick to salads, or any other meals that you can eat with great manners. Presentation. So I've had this type of interview before too. This is where you might be asked to create a presentation as a part of the interview process and then present that information to a group. For example, with Towson University, I had to create a presentation on a specific subject and then present that 30-minute presentation to a room. I think at the time there were about 25 folks in the room. So that is usually important. If that is an element that is a requirement of the job you are applying to, you might find that during the interview process. And then Zoom. Zoom is so popular now. Zoom is really a virtual interview. Some quick tips for you if you find yourself with a Zoom interview coming up. Obviously, we're going to get into the basics of being prepared, but keep in mind to have a professional background. You don't want to have roommates or family members walking around in the background. Test your connection ahead of time. Dress professionally, even though they can probably only see up here. You want to dress professionally head to toe, so you are in that mindset. And if you have notes, which is a benefit of having a Zoom interview, you could be, looking at your notes throughout. Don't put them down on the table in front of you, because what that does is creates looking at the top of your head. If you're looking down at your notes, they start seeing the top of your head. So the advice is to print out your notes, or if you prefer to handwrite them, I would take them to the back of your monitor right by the webcam, so that when you are looking at your notes, you're making eye contact with the camera. You could also paste those on the wall behind your monitor, depending on where your computer is located. So a lot of different types of interviews. One tip for you is when you are being invited to have an interview, it can be good practice to find out who will be joining that interview. So who will you be interviewing with? If you have a panel interview, it's nice to know everyone that will be in the room, so that way you can practice and prepare, and then also to know what type of interview. Usually they will tell you that information when they're sending the email confirmation, but it's good to ask if that's not clear. All right, so logistics. Let's talk about interview preparation. As I mentioned, it's good to know who's going to be in the room. So I would look up the interviewer's information. I would find their name on LinkedIn, look at their experiences, their background. Maybe you have some shared experiences or you attended the same university. That's good information to have just to know your audience. You also want to take a look and really research the company. That's, I think, one of the biggest takeaways. If you're going to take something away from today's presentation, before you go to an interview, you should really know the company. Research their website. Take a look at their mission, vision, values, their goals. Usually they'll have an About Us section. Take a look at the news. Oftentimes there's a press release section, and what they're putting out into the news are things that they're really proud of and they want the community to know. So if you can do your research ahead of time to see what is it that they're proud of, what are some things that they're working on now, and be informed of that. And we'll get into this question a little bit more later, but definitely research the company. You can print out multiple copies of your resume/cover letter. That's especially important for in-person interviews. That yes, you submitted a resume and cover letter when you submitted the application, but it's good to have that with you as well. That way, if they ask, you have that information, you can provide them and you look prepared. Figure out the route to the location. So this obviously lends itself to an in-person interview. I recommend practicing the route the day before your interview at the same time, or even the work before, the same day and time that you'll be having the interview, just to gauge what traffic looks like, figure out where you're supposed to park. Always leave yourself enough time for those, getting out of your car, walking into the building and finding out the location within the building. Make sure you review the position description and the skills they're looking for. So similarly to how it's important to know your audience and know the interviewer's information, really research the company, you want to know the position you're applying to like the back of your hand. So review the position description. One recommendation I usually have, and if you attend another workshop, you may have heard this before, but print out the job posting. Print out the entire thing, highlight, read it through, highlight what excites you about that role. What are certain maybe responsibilities that you're excited about, activities that the job requires? And I would highlight that in pink. I usually do that to symbolize love and passion. And then get a different color highlighter, and I would use yellow or some other color, and highlight the skills that they're looking for or the experiences that they're looking for, just qualifications that you have experience with already. Usually there's a responsibility section, and then there's a qualification section. It's broken up usually into minimum and preferred qualifications. So look at those various sections and highlight, okay, this is a responsibility of this job. I have experience doing this. Let me highlight that. These are qualifications they're looking for. Okay, I have those. Let me highlight that. And then refer to those when you're interviewing in your answers. Really making sure that you're tailoring your responses and showing them that you have the qualifications that they're looking for. And that's really important. Practice your answers. We'll be going over some frequently asked questions today and some best ways to answer those questions. But what you really want to do is take some time to reflect on your own experiences in previous positions or within your education and classwork, and come up with bullet points and things that you want to make sure to bring up to those answers. I wouldn't recommend creating a script for yourself and trying to memorize that script, because you can end up fumbling and feeling like you forgot your lines as if you were in a play, but rather just have notes and key words and key points you want to speak about. All right. So for the day of the interview, and a lot of these are referring to in-person interviews because in-person interviews are not going away. And I think it's important for you all to know, arrive early, but not too early. when you think about if you're hosting a party and you're having folks over and you're making dinner, maybe it's just a dinner party with friends, and you say, everybody come at 5:30 for this dinner party. And then you have a friend that shows up at 4:30. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, I'm not ready for you. You're really early. I, was still prepping everything. So a good rule of thumb, I would say, is about 15 minutes early, enough time to sit down and let them know you're prompt, be in the lobby. And then as soon as you get in the lobby, make sure and turn off your phone. It's not good practice I know everything is on our phones. And yes, you may be preparing for your interview by looking at the company website on your phone, or all your answers to your questions are on your phone, but they don't know that. They might see you just scrolling through your phone in the lobby. So I recommend turning it off as soon as you get in your car and you're walking up to the interview room, and have that silent in your bag. Take some time to compose yourself when you arrive, and make sure to be on your best behavior professionally as soon as you exit the car. Rule of thumb is your interview starts as soon as you get out of the car. You don't know who you're going to walk or run into in the parking lot. You might engage with the security guard. The company may ask the security guard, what did you think of this candidate? So greet everyone in a friendly and professional manner. Greet interviewers by name, if you can, with a smile and direct eye contact, and give them a firm handshake. If they offer a drink, so if they offer you a water, I recommend that you accept that. I think people defer to, oh, no, I'm okay. But a water can be actually really helpful. If you are answering a question and you don't know how to answer that question, and you're like, I need to think about this. Take a sip of your water to give you some time so you're doing something. Or say, I don't know how to answer that question. Let me think about that for a second. And then take a sip of your water while you're thinking. It's also just good because you're talking a lot during the interview and you might feel like you need it. Okay, so we've covered how to prepare the day of the interview. Obviously, you want to dress professionally, have great body language, eye contact, all those different things. Let's talk about what to say. So the content. When you are answering these questions, think about who you're talking to. What do they know? What is the context of the situation? For example, let's say you are interviewing with someone at Towson University and you are talking about an experience you had at Towson University. You can assume that they have an understanding of what the different Towson University acronyms mean. So you don't have to go into too much context. But if you were interviewing with a different organization and you were talking about an experience you had at another organization, university, et cetera, and there's a specific program you did work for, maybe it's an acronym, maybe it's not, but it's good to provide that context to them so that they are more well-informed. So think about who you're meeting with, what do they know, what they don't know, the context. And then when you are giving your answers, you want to focus on, your experiences, whether it be your educational experiences, your professional experiences. Think about your strengths, your interests, your goals and accomplishments, and really just your unique professional value to that organization. One thing to think about, number one interviewing tip, is when you're asked a question at the end, think about it as it was related to this job to keep you on topic. Popular interview questions. What are your greatest strengths? Okay, you probably have a couple different strengths that come to mind. There may be a lot of different answers you could give here. Whatever answer you decide to give should be related to this job. It should be something that they say, great, that's what we need. So the only rule where you don't want to keep it relevant to the job would be if they ask you a question like your weakness question, because you don't want to give them a weakness that is relevant or a requirement of the job. So again, add to the end of each question, I like to add related to this job to keep you on topic. And that's why it's important to really know that job posting. So one of the most popular ways to start an interview and break the ice is to ask the question, tell me about yourself. This is the 30-second commercial. If you attended yesterday's session, you are maybe a little more familiar with this. This is a good thing to have in your pocket for your answer to this question. They might ask you, if they don't ask you this, walk me through your resume. So just gives you a chance. You don't know what questions they're going to be asking during the interview, right? You may have done some research, have an idea of frequently asked questions, some key points you want to bring up, but this is an opportunity for you to really share what is the most important thing about myself that I want them to know about me. What do I want to make sure that I communicate during this interview and give you a chance to sell yourself right from the start? You want to speak with passion, enthusiasm. Again, this is really their first time hearing you talk and have that conversation. Before, you were just on a piece of paper. Now you've come to life, and you're going to want to keep it professional. So describe your skills and experiences that make you qualified for the job. I'll give you an example on the next page. This is using Clifton Strengths, which if you're not familiar with Clifton Strengths is an assessment that can tell you what your strengths are. So, and I'm using an example as a student at Towson University. I'm a junior studying business administration with a concentration in marketing at Towson University. I have a passion for marketing and currently serve as the marketing chair for my sorority. I also had an internship as a marketing intern last summer with Company X. In addition to my skills in social media marketing, I've been told that I'm adept at spotting relevant patterns and issues. I love solving problems and have a strong work ethic. Be happy to dive a bit deeper into any of these if it would be helpful. I think the biggest mistakes folks make with this question is that they go too personal. So they'll talk about, their hobbies, interests, where they grew up, family members, pets, or they don't keep it relevant, or they get awkward at the end because they don't know how to stop talking. So it's always good to have a good sentence, something like I mentioned here. I'd be happy to dive a bit deeper on any of these if it would be helpful. Next question. Why are you interested in this position? They ask this because they want to see that you are really passionate about the work you would be doing. You want to communicate when you answer this question that you really understand the industry, you understand the position and what it entails. And again, keep it focused on your value to them, not their value to you. Biggest mistakes I see when they answer this question is, this would be a really great opportunity for me. I'm really looking for a way to just get my foot in the door. That's very self-serving language. You want to focus on the roles. Like, I really just have a passion for serving others and so forth. Employers love to hear you talk about their company and the work they do just as much as you like to hear people say nice things about you. Keep that in mind, because oftentimes you'll hear one of these two questions. What do you know about this company? And why do you want to work here? Basically, they want to know that you've done your research on the organization. I know I mentioned before, research the company. I think this is a really great way to just rule yourself out of the running if you don't know how to answer this question. You should be able to restate back to the organization what they do. They want to know that you've done your research, why you want to work there. So take a look at their website. I would follow them on social media. I'd take a look at what they're posting on social media, look at them news articles, reference research they've done, things they're doing now, and to stroke their ego. So name drop, maybe you have a friend or a neighbor who works at the organization. This would be a chance for you to name drop the good things you've heard from their current employees. So just an example of some things that you can take a look at on the website when you're looking on how to answer that question. All right. Another frequently asked question is the greatest strengths question. You want to pick 3 strengths that you have that relate to the job and give examples. If they ask you this question and you say, I'm really, I'm adaptable, I have a positive attitude, and I'm a really innovative thinker. Give examples of times where you've demonstrated those strengths. That's going to add way more value than just stating your strengths. Anybody could say those things. I just came up with those off the top of my head. And you could say it convincingly, like, okay, but they're really going to believe you if you can say, you know, during my position, and give an example of how you demonstrated those strengths. It gives credibility. If you don't know what strengths are yours and you're having a hard time selling yourself, Clifton Strengths is an assessment I would recommend, or you could ask the former employer. The weakness question. I would say this is a question that a lot of folks struggle with. It's like, why are you asking me this question? I thought this was an interview and I was supposed to be selling myself. The reason why this question is asked is really they want to see that you are self-aware, that you've identified a weakness within yourself, and that you're taking actionable steps to improve. Your weakness is a skill, not a character deficit. It's not a character trait, it's a skill. So be honest, pick one, and take note of things that you've done to improve upon that skill. And again, nothing related to the job you're applying to. Language you could use. You know, one thing that's never really come naturally to me is public speaking, but I'm aware of that. So what I'm doing to improve is taking an advanced public speaking course and becoming more comfortable and familiar with it. As a result, I've noticed I've gotten better, but it's still not something I feel comfortable with. Okay. You could say, or you can make it situational. You could say, you know, in situations where I tend to, but I'm aware of that. And so what I'm doing to improve is, and as a result, I've noticed I've gotten better, but I just don't feel like I'm where I want to be. Examples of possible weaknesses. So I don't have much time left, so I'm going to go through these next slides rather quickly here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This question, basically, they just want to know that this position you're applying to is in line with your current career goals and that you're not at flight risk. So behavioral questions. You might find questions where it says, tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when you had a challenge. Tell me about a time when you worked on a team. Tell me about a time when you were a leader. You want to, before the interview, come up with examples in your history and experiences where you've had these certain situations happen. They can lend themselves to a lot of different tell me about a time and questions. So you're going to use the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, result, as you answer those questions. So providing context when necessary and always including the positive result from that example. These are some things I would recommend you explore. Examples you can come up with. The ones in yellow are very popular. So a time where you had to work on a team, demonstrate leader, had critical thinking, solve a problem. And then at the end of the interview, they'll ask you do you have any questions for me? So you want to come prepared with about 3 to 5 questions. I would lead off with a question that you know that you want to ask based on your research. So maybe something you saw on their website that you want to learn more about. But just make sure you do not ask about salary, benefits, or vacation time. That is something that would be discussed once you get the job offer. And don't ask something that could easily be discovered online. Like, what do you guys do? So here are some examples of questions you can ask. Just so you know, some questions that they're not allowed to ask you in an interview. Employers cannot ask about age, race, national origin, marital and family status, sexual orientation, medical history, or possible disabilities. One way to respond is, that's a question I've never been asked before, and I'm curious as to why it's important to the job under consideration. Once the interview is over, I would send a thank you email to each person you interviewed with. I would send those within 24 hours after the interview. Remind them of your interest and excitement for the position. And then you can follow up with them if you haven't heard from them within about 2 weeks. usually in the interview, I recommend one of your questions be, when do you expect to make a hiring decision? So that way you can be informed, oh, they said they make a hiring decision by XYZ date. I haven't heard from them. So, I'm going to follow up. And that is what I've got. So if you have additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat box. I know we're 1 minute over.
Hi, yeah, Leah, thank you so much. That was great. That was a great presentation with some helpful tips. We do have a couple of questions. So I'll go through them really quickly, see if we can get those answered. The first one, would you mind please showing that yellow slide again about content and context?
Oh, of course. Sure.
And I think this presentation, we'll have it available, that I will be sending it out to anybody that have joined the call. So you'll be able to get access to all of this. I think that's correct, Leah, right? We shared the presentation, I think so.
Sure.
Mistaken. Okay, and the next question is, could you please show the slide in which points about the organizations are listed that a candidate should do research on?
I'm going to guess it's this slide.
So again, if you're trying to take notes, and obviously this is really good stuff, I will be sharing it with everyone on the call, either later today or tomorrow. So you'll be able to reference back to this presentation.
And it's recorded, right? So they can access the recording.
Yeah, that's what that's what I'll be sharing, not the actual, but the recording. That's correct.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you so much. If we do not have any other questions through the chat, again, we thank you so much for attending this presentation. Thank you again, Leah, for the presentation. So that's it. Again, my email address is crivers@towson.edu. But like I said, I will be following up. So
thank you for having me. Everyone have a great day.
You're welcome. Thank you, Leah. You guys have a great day.